Well, we're going to start with an introduction to the tribe of, we call it Simeon, but the real name is Shimon. And it means, of course, here, and that's where we get the Shema from, in Deuteronomy 6:4, is it comes from Simeon. One trouble is Simeon listened, he didn't obey so much. But the order of birth is, he was the second son of Leah and Yaakov. And of course you find that in Genesis 29:33. And his date of birth is the 28th of Tevet in the year 2194, which would relate in our years to the date of the 26th of January 1567 BCE. Okay? Now, one of the things that I caught myself is that everybody hear about how he was involved with Joseph at the well and how things went. But when I got to studying, I thought, you know, it really started happening before that. It happened at Shechem, because Shechem was before Joseph at the well. And he was involved with that in Genesis 34:22-31. And he was one of the main ones involved. And I was reading, and all of a sudden I got to catching it, that he'd really angered Yaakov, because if you read in those verses, Yaakov was angry at Hamor and Shechem anyway, Hamor and Shechem, because of what they had done to Dinah. But he had to wait for his sons, because he was by himself. His sons were out in the field at that time. So when he got back, they all became angry at what happened. But they had made a covenant. And the covenant was circumcision. Now that circumcision, because they said that they would dwell and live together, is the fact that Simeon and Levi broke that covenant, which is a God covenant, circumcision is, through God himself, through Yaakov. And they went and slaughtered all the men of Shechem without any permission from their father to do so altogether. So what you see is the fact that Simeon had agreed to the covenant in deceit. And he had already decided what he was going to do in his mind. And so he was making a covenant with anger and deceit in his heart, because they had defiled his sister, which he thought was an abomination. He didn't like, number one, it brought a mixed blood into a line of blood that they said should be strictly Jewish. But with the covenant, they had agreed to it, but Yaakov got mad about it. So he was also, and at this time, I found this out, a lot of people think that he was young and a child, you know. I read where some think he was 14 and stuff like that. Well, I went through and I found Demetrius the chronographer, and he has their dates now. Now he was with Josephus, Flavius Josephus, and he has very detailed their births and their ages at the time. Now remember, Joseph was born at this time as well. He was already alive, so he's seen what happened in Shechem. And Simeon was, Shimon was 21 years, 4 months old. So he was a young man. So he
definitely considered a man.
Definitely, because it says 20. So he was considered a man, and he was responsible for his actions to his father, not only to his father, but to God. So that's another point that needs to be made, is the fact that they say men counted above 20 and above. So he was very well, he was in that range. He's also involved with Joseph being put in the well. And you know he was one of the main instigators of that in Genesis 37:18. And he was chosen by Joseph to be imprisoned in Egypt. That's a good sign that he was very well involved at the well, because he would have chose somebody else, and he didn't. He definitely chose Shimon out of that all the sons. And you can find that in Genesis 42:24. And Anyway, another reason I believe that he chose Simeon is the fact that he was a big influence over Levi, because Levi was with him at Shechem. So Joseph wanted to split those two apart to keep them from getting together and also convincing the other brothers to, you know, as to what was go on with Joseph. And he could also start a war here. If he started one in Shechem, he could definitely do it in this situation here. Okay? And also out of the tribe of Simeon was Zimri. Of course, we know about Zimri and Cosby. Zimri was a prince of the tribe of Simeon, Shimon. You find that in Numbers 27, 7 through 14. And that plague was brought on. Now, I've read several topics, several subjects and topics on this instance here from several different websites. And one of the rabbis, several of the rabbis, believed that a lot of the tribe of Simeon was wiped out right here. This plague was started, and because they'd already been doing this other than being killed here by Pincus. So the plague had started, and they say that the whole 24,000 was out of the tribe of Simeon at that time. The plague covered the tribe of Simeon, and it was wiping out 24,000. Now let's get it in our minds also of one thing, that not all the people out of the tribe of Simeon were bad people. You know, there were some good people. But God, when God brings down a judgment on a tribe or of people or a nation of people, He will wipe it out. That's why He said, I want you to wipe out the Amalekites. If you leave one, guess what? It's going to come back to haunt you. Amen. So, and another thing I disagree with, and I've been taught this, so don't think that I'm, you know, just out there, because I was taught that Moses, the reason Moses didn't do anything, Moses was in shock. No, Moses wasn't in shock. He knew the law.
Exactly.
He was giving the law. He wrote it. He got the law from God. And if anybody knew the law, it was Moshe. You know, he knew it. He taught it. But he also remembered back here, and I talked about this with Rabbi. Rabbi said, that is good. He remembered Yaakov when he was giving the blessings to his children. And he said, you are deceitful, you will be dispersed, and you will disappear. He gave no blessing to Shimon at all. So he remembered that, and he was just going to let this plague take its course. And where it didn't get us, well, a lot of people say, why didn't he fall on his face? He remembered, clear back in Genesis, because, you know, here he is in Deuteronomy. He says Simeon was not even among the ones mentioned in Deuteronomy. He wasn't even brought up. So, you know, and a good tip-off is it said that, another thing is that Moses, the man of God, spoke his blessings over the people of Israel. So it was, so you know what happened as far as that goes, as far as giving the blessings and
We talked about last night.
Okay.
Take it home.
Yeah.
We'll pray about that. Okay.
all right. And he said, so if, you know, Moses could have pretty well done anything he wanted to do at this time, because this was his blessings, but he didn't. He didn't even mention them. They were given a portion. If you look at it, and of course, several of us here have been to Israel. But if you come down on the other side of the Dead Sea, right across from Reuben is a bigger area. Shimon would have been in there, but he was given a portion of land inside the tribe of Judah, because they said later on, you will be absorbed into Judah or dispersed. And Simeon was to the west side of the tribes of Israel, as what Reuben was to the right side. They ended up, or the east side, they ended up being insignificant as far as the nation at that time as tribes. They